Hello, it's me, Mike, with HPDS. I'll be reading through Genesis 37 in this video. I'll be going over Genesis 37. Um, so before I get started, I'll go ahead and do the Lord's Prayer. Our Father who is in heaven, hallowed be thy name. May your kingdom come. May your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Please give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us of our debt, as we forgive those in debt to us. And Lord, lead us not into temptation, but instead deliver us from the evil one. For yours is the kingdom of power and glory, Lord, forever and ever. Amen. Genesis 37. So before I get into this video, I will make mention of an outline to look forward to. So basically in Genesis 37, we're going to see chapters or verses 1 through 4. We're going to see Israel in Canaan. We're going to see verses 5 through 11 are going to show us that Israel's son Joseph has two dreams. And so we're going to go over these two dreams that he has in verses 5 through 11. And then verses 12 through 30, we're going to find that the brothers, Joseph's brothers, the sons of Isaac, are going to dispose of Joseph. So they're going to get rid of Joseph. And in verses 31 to 36, we're going to see that Jacob, Israel over here, he's going to be deceived and he's going to mourn for his son Joseph. He's going to think his son is dead. So we'll see this. We'll go over this. And this is going to be Genesis 37. And let me get to it. And remember, just to make mention, Genesis 36 is an easy one to remember. It was a line of Esau, basically. It was just a whole bunch of information regarding the line of Esau. So let me go ahead and get into Genesis 37. And here it is. And Jacob dwelt in the land wherein his father was a stranger, in the land of Canaan. These are the generations of Jacob. Joseph, being 17 years old, was feeding the flock with his brethren. And the lad was with the sons of Bilhah, and with the sons of Zilpah, his father's wives. And Joseph brought unto his father their evil report. Now Israel loved Joseph more than all his children, because he was the son of his old age, and he made him a coat of many colors. And when his brethren saw that their father loved him more than all his brethren, they hated him, and could not speak peaceably unto him. And Joseph dreamed a dream, and he told it to his brethren, and they hated him yet the more. And he said unto them, Hear, I pray thee, this dream which I have dreamed. For behold, we were binding sheaves in the field, and lo, my sheaf arose and also stood upright. And behold, your sheaves stood round about and made obeisance to my sheaf. And his brethren said to him, Shalt thou indeed reign over us? Or shalt thou indeed have dominion over us? And they hated him yet the more for his dreams and for his words. And he dreamed yet another dream, and told it his brethren, and said, Behold, I have dreamed a dream more, and behold, the sun and the moon and the 11 stars made obeisance to me. And he told it to his father and to his brethren. And his father rebuked him, and said unto him, What is this dream that thou hast dreamed? Shall I and thy mother and thy brethren indeed come to bow down ourselves to thee, to the earth? And his brethren envied him, but his father observed the saying. And his brothers and his brethren went out to feed their father's flock in Shechem. And Israel said unto Joseph, Do not thy brethren feed the flock in Shechem? Come, and I will send thee unto them. And he said to him, Here am I. And he said to him, Go, I pray thee, see whether it will be with thy brethren, and well with the flocks, and bring me word again. So he sent him out of the vale of Hebron, and he came to Shechem. And a certain man found him, and behold, he was wandering in the field. And the man asked him, saying, What seekest thou? And he said, I seek my brethren. Tell me, I pray thee, where they feed their flocks. And the man said, They are departed hence, for I heard them say, Let us go to Dothan. And Joseph went after his brethren, and found them in Dothan. And when they saw him afar off, even before he came near unto them, they conspired against him to slay him. And they said to one another, Behold, this dreamer cometh. Now come now, therefore, and let us slay him and cast him into some pit. And we will say, Some evil beast had devoured him, and we shall see what will become of his dreams. And Reuben heard it, and he delivered him out of their hands, and said, Let us not kill him. And Reuben said unto them, Shed no blood, but cast him into this pit that is in the wilderness, and lay no hand upon him, that he might rid him out of their hands, to deliver him to his father again. And it came to pass, when Joseph was come unto his brethren, that they stripped Joseph out of his coat of many colors that was on him. And they took him and cast him into a pit, and the pit was empty, there was no water in it. And they sat down to eat bread, and they lifted up their eyes and looked, and behold, a company of Ishmaelites came from Gilead with their camels bearing spicery and balm and myrrh, carrying it down to Egypt. And Judah said unto his brethren, What profit is it if we slay our brother and conceal his blood? Come, let us sell him to the Ishmaelites, and let not our hand be upon him, for he is our brother and our flesh. And his brethren were content. And then there passed by Midianites merchantmen, and they drew and lifted up Joseph out of the pit, and sold Joseph to the Ishmaelites for 20 pieces of silver, and they brought Joseph into Egypt. And Reuben returned unto the pit, and behold, Joseph was not in the pit, and he rent his clothes. And he returned unto his brethren, and said, The child is not, and I, whither shall I go? And they took Joseph's coat, and killed a kid of goats, and dipped the coat in the blood. And they sent the coat of many colors, and they brought it to their father, and said, This have we found. Know now whether it be thy son's coat or no. And he knew it, and said, It is my son's coat. An evil beast hath devoured him. Joseph is without doubt rent in pieces. And Jacob rent his clothes, and put sackcloth upon his loins, and mourned for his son many days. And all his sons and all his daughters rose up to comfort him. But he refused to be comforted. And he said, For I will go down into the grave unto my son mourning. Thus his father wept for him. And the Midianites sold him into Egypt unto Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh's and captain of the guard. So that was Genesis 37 in its entirety, out of the King James Version of the Bible. So yeah, that's what's going on. Is Israel's got a favorite son. That favorite son is now named Joseph, and he's the youngest. He's one of the younger ones. He's not quite the youngest. I think Ben-Hanoni was the youngest one. Let me take a look if I can find this one. Benjamin, not Ben-Hanoni, but Benjamin was the youngest one. But Joseph was one of the youngest ones right here, and he was his favorite one, Joseph over here. So Joseph was the favorite, and he's the 11th son. He's not quite the youngest, but he's one of the younger ones, the second to the youngest one. And so let me go ahead and I'll get into it. I'll show this, I'll read through it, and we'll go, with the Holy Spirit and see what the Holy Spirit's got to show us here, got to talk about here. So like I said, basically the first 4 verses are going to be expanding on Israel and how he's here in this land of Canaan. And so of course he's dwelling in the land where his father was a stranger, and he goes over his generations. And Joseph in this story, we're setting it up at he's 17 years old. And basically he was hanging out with all the brothers. And Joseph was the one that was basically going and telling the father, Israel, telling him about all the bad things their kids, the other brothers are doing. So once again, we did remember reading, I believe it was in that last chapter, that actually was back in chapter 35, not 36. 36 was Esau's line. Back in chapter 35, we read that, for example, Reuben slept with Bilhah, which was so he did something kind of like tabooish over there, is that he did something that he slept with his father's concubine. So he had sex with somebody his father had sex with. something that's, once again, it's part of that sexual immorality. It's a hint of sexual immorality. There's something going on. These guys aren't necessarily the greatest characters always. And we remember seeing how Simeon and Levi were basically, they straight up murdered for something that probably wasn't worth murdering an entire city for. And so we've got these guys doing some bad things, and it's probably Joseph running back and forth, making sure that Jacob knows what happened. Joseph was the one that told on him, basically. And, it's because Joseph spent a lot of time with him, probably. It was his favorite son, and they were probably, and he says because he was the son of his old age. And so he gave him a coat over here, coat of many colors. He gave him a special coat, something that's probably expensive, something that was kind of hard to come by, something that was real nice. And he gave it to Joseph instead of giving it to, say, Reuben, his oldest, or some of these other guys that probably liked it too, and they probably might have wanted it. And so all his brothers see this, and you see this in the verse 4, that this kind of sums up what's going on in this portion of the story, is that all the brothers saw that his father loved Joseph the most, and they hated him, and they couldn't speak peaceably unto him. So they got to a point that they just weren't even being nice to Joseph. And he's only, how old is he? He's 17 years old. So he's just a 17-year-old kid, and these guys all hate him. And so then we start up in verse 5, going on from verses 5 till about 11. We're going to see that Joseph's going to have these two dreams. And if you remember these two dreams, there's something going on with these two dreams that makes everybody kind of upset. Even his dad gets a little upset, even though his dad keeps it in mind and he considers it, but it does upset kind of everybody here. And let's take a look. He said, first off, here's the first dream. Verse 7 over here. What does he say? For behold, we were binding sheaves in the field, and lo, my sheaf arose and also stood upright. And behold, your sheaves stood round about and made obeisance to my sheep. Now, I'm going to go ahead and search Google for this obeisance. So you see what's going on. They're bowing. They're showing respect. It's basically like calling him. They're paying homage to him. They're showing respect to him, like he is standing up as maybe the king over here. So again, remember what's going on is there's a kingship being passed. Remember how we got to remember Jacob himself stole the birthright from his brother Esau. He stole the birthright, and he stole also the blessing. And so now he's got to remember this, that coming from him, God has already told him that I'm going to make kings come out of you too. Everybody's going to be blessed on account of this line that you guys, so that's something that he's remembering. And so here's Joseph, and it looks like Joseph is having a dream, and in his dream, all the brothers are paying respect to him like he's a king or something. And so now the brethren, or even everybody obviously understands this dream, saying, oh, look, the sheaves, might as well, just in case a lot of people don't know what sheaves are, it's a sheaf. The sheaf is like a grain stock. So you see what I'm saying? It's the grain, it's basically like something that's tied together after reaping. So his sheaf is like some sort of grain, some sort of stock, something that they're, and it's growing up and it's standing upright, and all their sheaves stood round about and made obeisance. So he's seeing one sheaf standing above the rest, and all the rest are bowing down to that one sheaf. And he's saying that was my sheaf, and the rest were yours. And so they're all very upset about this, and look at what they're saying. His brother said to him, shalt thou indeed reign over us? Or shalt thou indeed have dominion over us? And they hated him yet the more for his dreams and for his words. So he tells them about this dream that he has, and of course they get mad about this dream. And mind you, they're already forgetting that this is something that we should know, and we gotta realize the fact now is that all of our thoughts and everything in our mind is coming from God. And even Jacob had kind of understood this early on. He had made mention of it, that everything that was in his thoughts and seeing his brother was like seeing the face of God. And so there was a lot going on when Jacob saw God back in back in Bethel, that last time that he goes up there. And that would have been what, Genesis 35 was when he went up there. So we went back to 35, and after they killed everybody, they go up to Bethel. And where was it in Bethel that he calls, let's see, and God said, let's see, and he called him Israel, and what am I looking for? And the land I will give it. Jacob called, and he, well, I'm not even sure what I'm trying to look at, but basically, what I'm trying to get at is everything, even the dreams, come from God. And Jacob had kind of understood that earlier on, and he's attributing, and even Abraham did. They attributed, their great victories to God. So they're realizing that something in these dreams are kind of coming from God. So these brothers aren't really acting like that, and so they're getting angry at what comes from God. They're over here, uh, Joseph tells them about a dream. And that dream is, look, all you guys are paying obeisance to me. And so, of course, this comes from God, and they're like saying, what, you're going to reign over us? Whatever. They hated him even more. So they weren't giving it any thought to God. They were just giving thought to their their standing in their life. They were just thinking about their standing, and what they were going to inherit from their dad, and they were only thinking about themselves. They weren't thinking about the future. They weren't thinking about God's promise in particular. And so then he has another dream. So here comes God to him again. And this time he told it to his brother. And he says, look, behold, the sun and the moon and the 11 stars made obeisance to me. He says, isn't that crazy? The sun and the moon and 11 stars made obeisance to me. And of course he tells his dad and his brothers, and his dad gets really upset this time. So this time it's not just the brothers, it's Israel himself getting mad. And he says, what is this dream that you have dreamed? Is it, shall me and your mother and your brothers indeed come down to bow ourselves to thee to the earth? So they recognized it for what it meant. I mean, the sun and the moon and the stars are, making obeisance to me. Well, the sun and the moon would obviously be Isaac and his wife, the mother over here, which would have been Rachel. It would have been Rachel was his mother. And then, of course, the 11 stars being his other 11 brothers. And so, of course, God, Jacob's getting, Israel over here is getting kind of upset, and the brothers are envious. They're getting really, they really don't like him anymore. At this point, they don't like him. He's having dreams. They're not taking it for God's word. They're not taking it for God's understanding. They're just getting really hateful of him. But of course, Israel, he observes the same. So he kind of thinks about it. And so obviously it's something that, maybe it upsets him, but it's something that he thinks about in the long run. He remembers this dream that Joseph had, in which everybody was paying obeisance to Joseph. And so, of course, we get to a story starting in around, verse 12, where we're going to get into the brothers disposing of Joseph. So verses 12 to 30 is basically going to be the brothers disposing of Joseph, And so the main parts of this one is going to be, Israel is going to find Joseph, and all the brothers are out there feeding Israel's flock in Shechem. So they're out there in Shechem. And let's find Shechem. They're out there in Shechem, and he's sending them from Hebron. And he sends the boy out there, and he says, he calls him, and of course here comes Joseph saying, here am I. So it's just a common saying, here I am, or here am I. And he says, go find out what's going on with your brothers and see if the flocks are doing word, and send me word again. So he sent him out of the vale of Hebron, and he came to Shechem. So he leaves out of Hebron, and he goes up to the Shechem. So, and let's see that he finds somebody, and this guy tells him, hey, do you know where my brothers are? And that guy says, yeah, I think they went to Dothan. And so Joseph goes after there and finds them in Dothan. And now I don't know if I can find, let's see, have I seen Dothan? I have not seen Dothan here. I don't know Dothan. So this is an interesting one because I got another map, that I don't know where this comes from. Dothan, Dothan. So let me see if any of these other maps, I don't even recognize if I have seen Dothan in any of these other maps. Dothan, Sidon. So this, get rid of this one, get rid of this one, get rid of this one. Don't need this one, don't need this one, don't need this one. I'm trying to look for a map that maybe has Dothan on it. Shechem, Gath, Dothan. This one doesn't also have it that I can see it either. So Dothan, Dothan. It would probably be somewhere up by Shechem, obviously. Joppa, that one doesn't have anything. Let's see if I got any other one. Maybe Abraham's got it. Dothan. Nope, nothing along that line. Journey, let's see, Jacob's Travels. This is the one I think I looked at. No Dothan. So I don't know exactly where this particular city is, but it sounds like it's probably close to. Oh, look, here it is, Dothan. Here, this map has it. So they went up to Shechem, remember? So he's up from Hebron, and so he goes from Hebron up to Shechem, which you can see Shechem right over here. And then they tell him, oh, they're out in Dothan. So it looks like they're a little bit north over here. So he goes up to Dothan, and that's where he finds them. And so that's what we're finding. So I did find a map there with Dothan in there. And he goes to Dothan, and so he goes and he finds them there. And before he even shows up there, they must be seeing him. So they probably, they see him from afar off. Maybe he's walking up a path, or maybe they're up on a hill or a mountain or something. But they see him coming. And before he even comes into them, they start, they're so far off apparently. And they're so angry with him after these dreams. They decide, for whatever reason, this is the time that they decide it's time to get rid of this kid. We're tired of this kid. Let's get rid of him. That's how bad these guys were. They were going to kill their own brother. Here they are. Here's another story of people trying to kill their own brother. Esau talked about it. Cain did it. And now we're going to see these brothers almost get away with it. They almost do it too. They probably would have killed him if it wasn't for Reuben. But here they go. They find him and they start conspiring, and they say, look, here he comes. Here comes this dreamer. And let's kill him and cast him into some pit. And we will say that, he got killed by some evil beast. And we shall see what become of his dreams. And so Reuben hears it, and he delivers them out of their hands. He said, let's not kill him, though, because let's throw him into the pit, but let's not kill him. And, his concept was that we'll do something with him. But he was really just hoping to throw him in the pit and then get him later and save him. And that way he could give Isaac back. He could bring Joseph back to his son. He wasn't trying to kill him. He was trying to save him. But he also did kind of not really care. He was really, let's just throw him in a pit. Let's just torment him instead of killing him. But, so here comes Joseph. And right away, as soon as they show up, they just, they strip him, and they take him, and they took him, and they cast him into a pit. There was no water in the pit, and they took off. So they do it like maybe it's a joke to them or something. They throw him down in there, and they take off to go eat lunch or something. They just really beat him up, and and this is something that. It happens in families. I'm not going to say or condone it. It's not a good thing. It's obviously a bad thing, but it happens. Brothers beat up on their brother. And that's what they did here. They kind of beat up on him and throw him in the pit and kind of strip him naked. And they're probably laughing about it. And who knows? Maybe it doesn't say anything about alcohol, but they're clearly angry. There's clearly something going on with these guys. They got some demons in them doing this kind of stuff. And, and then they sat down to eat the bread, and look, behold, some Ishmaelites came from Gilead with their camels, bearing spicery and balm and myrrh, going to carry it down to Egypt. So the Ishmaelites, and these are basically, they're going to be Midianites. And so let's take a look. Let me see. They come from Gilead. So here's that whole area of Gilead. And I remember having some issues finding it. But here's Gilead, this whole area. So these guys are coming in from Gilead. and they're coming on their way down to Egypt. So these Gileads they're coming from here and probably making their way down this way, going to Egypt. And so let's see. Behold, and Myrrh going to carry it down to Egypt. And Judah said, so one of the brothers, now Judah, not Reuben, this is Judah, he comes up and he says, hey, what profit? We shouldn't kill our brother. We could sell him. Let's sell him. And so they all like, oh yeah, it's a good idea. They all clear, they were content. They were all happy about this. So then we're passed by Midianites, merchantmen. So let me find that one, map of the nations. Here's the one I think that Jacob's tribes. Here you go. Nope, these are not the one I'm looking for. Here it is. This is the one I'm looking for. So they're coming from over here, but I don't see these. They're not Midianites. So, but he calls them Midianites, and they're coming in from over here, and that's what this map shows. But he doesn't show the Midianites. So they're coming in from this Gilead. They catch him in Dothan, and he's calling them Midianites, though. Ultimately, and let's see. So what happened? They sell him. And yeah, they sell him for 20 pieces of silver is all it costed them. 20 pieces of silver. And they bought him and they took Joseph into Egypt. So this is pretty much saying goodbye, and it's kinda sad because that means he probably would have passed from this Dothan area over here. He would have kind of probably passed coming down this coastline in Philistia, or maybe he would have come down the mountain ridge, for example. I don't really know. How they would have done it, but it's not like he wouldn't have been going past Hebron where his own dad was. So he gets basically sold, and it's like a kidnap situation, and they take him all the way to Egypt, and that's going to be where we come across Joseph into Egypt, and it's fulfilling more of the prophecy that was given back to, I want to say it was Abraham, when he was told that, remember when Abraham goes into a dark sleep, and I want to say this is like Genesis 18, maybe. It shall be a token of maybe Genesis 18. I think it is. No, I'm not entirely sure when I remember, but it was one of them with Abraham, and he tells him, know for a certainty that know for a certainty that your line will be strangers in a strange land, and those people will treat them badly, but rest assured that I'm going to come back and have I'll judge that nation. And so this is that nation he's talking about. He's talking about Egypt, and he's talking about all the time that they're going to be spending in Egypt until Moses comes around. And when Moses comes around, and Moses saves them in the Exodus, and that's what we'll be seeing. But this is fulfilling part of that prophecy, and we'll see that later on. But we'll see that this time, this is a horrible thing that these brothers are doing. They basically sell their brother, and as far as Israel is concerned, Joseph dies. Joseph is dead. They're as good as killed their brother. As far as they're concerned, even they killed their brother. And Reuben returned unto the pit, and behold, Joseph was not in the pit. And he returned unto his brother and said, the child is not, and I, whither shall I go? What am I going to do? So now Reuben's the one saying, what are we going to do? Y'all took what happened to Joseph, and they're like, oh, we sold him, and don't getting him back down. They're like, oh no, here Reuben is freaking out. What are we going to do? Like, nobody thought about it. What are we going to do? And so they decide together that, they take the coat and they put some blood all over it. And then they kind of bring it to their dad and they say, hey, is this, we don't know where Jacob is. Where's Jacob? Is this his coat? We found this coat. And, we want to know, is this his? And of course, Israel knows, Jacob, Israel, he knows it. That's, of course, the coat that he gave him. And so he's convinced that Joseph is torn into pieces by a beast, that an animal got him. He was killed by an animal as far as he's concerned. And so he So Jacob tears his clothes, rents his clothes, meaning he tears them apart, and he puts on sackcloth, and he mourned for his son for many days. And so that's where we see him at the end. He gets deceived. They tell him that, oh, we found this. Maybe he got killed by animals. And that's what Joseph thinks. That's what Jacob thinks. Joseph is dead as far as he's concerned. And nobody can comfort him. It's a sad deal. Meanwhile, what's really going on is that the Midianites sell him into Egypt unto Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh's and captain of the guard. So we see that at the end, though, we see that God is really taking control of what's going on here, and he takes the son, he takes Joseph, and we're going to see how God treats Joseph in Egypt in future chapters. But that is the end of Genesis 37. And I'm going to go ahead and end this video coming up right here. And I'll just go over a quick review again. 37, we come across Israel and Canaan. We start talking about his favorite son, Joseph, and how the brothers all hate Joseph. And they just really can't stand him. He's just dad's favorite. And they just can't figure it out. They just don't like it and so forth. So what they end up doing is one day Jacob sends them out. Jacob sends out Joseph, say, hey, go tell, go check in on your brothers and report back to me about them. And when the brothers see him and they're out kind of in a distant part of the land, they decide, hey, we're kind of in a distant area. Let's go ahead and kill our brother. And they come up with a plan, and instead of killing him, they end up, stripping him and putting him in a hole for a little while, and then they sell him to some Ishmaelites, some Midianites is what they call them. Some Midianites who were on their way down to Egypt. And they take this group of Ishmaelites takes Joseph as a little slave, takes him down to Egypt, and when they get to Egypt, they sell him to Egypt, and he makes it into the Potiphar's household, he happens to be a captain over there of the Pharaoh's guard. So, but yeah, I'll go ahead and end it here. If you're watching this video, go ahead and please like the video, subscribe to the channel. God bless you, and I pray that we all bless Jesus Christ, and may Jesus Christ bless all of us. Amen.